Hello, and welcome to session 48 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. My name's Andrew Marsh, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's 7 years ago, and everything fell into place. I used to be a geologist before that time, and I've had some experiences of that kind of work and what it was like being different without knowing why. That was my difficulty I had back then, was not knowing why I was different, it's just that I was treated differently from my colleagues around me. And what I want to do today is I want to talk about one of the key skills that many people who have Asperger's syndrome have and how that can be good for your business. And that is unique problem solving skills. Now, most businesses need people who can fix things. They need fixers. They need people who can design new ideas, design new products, put new services into place to take their business forward for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever that is. So you want people who have that that kind of way that their brain works, that they can solve things, they can see differences in things, and they can say, oh, maybe we could do that. Maybe if we looked at this in this way, we could approach it differently, we could get a different result, a better result, a new product, and so on. And that's really what today's talk about is the ability of some people on the spectrum to be very, very good at problem solving. If I was to give you some names of people who from history were believed to have Asperger's syndrome, it might give you an idea of the sorts of caliber of people that I'm talking about. If we talk of people like Nikola Tesla, we talk about people like Leonardo da Vinci, who was so much more than just a world famous artist. He was an engineer, he was a scientist, he was a biologist, he was a geologist. It was so many things. If you get the opportunity to read a biography of Leonardo da Vinci, I'd highly recommend it. It gives you an idea of what amazing things he came up with because he asked the what if questions. What if we looked at this? What if we did this way? Or how can we do that? So people like that have amazing abilities to think differently. And that's the essence of people who have Asperger's syndrome or autism. If we liken the brain to a computer, and many people have done that in the past, let's suppose that most people, that's neurotypical people, have a brain wired to operating system A, and some people, that's neurodivergent people, people with Asperger's syndrome and autism, have a brain wired to computer system B. A and B are different. One is not better from the other. They both do similar things, but they do them in different ways. That's what people with Asperger's syndrome and autism have. Their brain is wired differently. And so it makes different connections within the brain. And in many people's cases, they have that innate ability to think out of the box, to think differently, to come up with unique ways of fixing something. And if you're a business, you make things, you build things, you provide things, you produce a product. That's what you want. You want someone who can work within your business and say, do you know what? We make these 12 products. I think we could make a 13th, and it's like this, and it could be better than some of the 12 that we've got. That could take us forward the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. That's the sort of person that you want working for you, who has got free thinking ideas. They're not constrained by the norms of what is going on around them. They will think differently. They will analyze. They will look at things. They will be technically proficient, and they will try and find ways of coming up with something new. So if you're in that situation, or whether you're an architect or you're a civil or structural engineer, a geotechnical engineer, so many branches of engineering and manufacturing that have a small, sometimes a small room, sometimes a big room of people off the side from the normal manufacturing, normal everyday activities that's going on. And in this little side room will be a small team of people, and their job will be to come up with something new, come up with something different, improve on what we've got, make it more efficient, make it a better product, make it a cheaper product, make a more superior product. All of these are options, and all of these are available to them. And I call that the team, the research and development team. Other businesses may call it different things, but essentially you've got a team of people who are not contributing to the daily work that is going on in the business, but they are thinking of new ways to come up with new products or improve on what's going on that can drive the business forward 2, 5, 10 years and so on. And they are the future because they're not constrained by making sure that they do 200 of these things a day to get their product numbers, to get their numbers up, to make the business profitable. They are targeted with one thing and one thing only, and that is to find the next big thing. Invent it, make it, come up with it, design it, product test it, trial it, and then run it out. That's their task, is to find new ways of coming up with something to make the business better for the future. People with Asperger syndrome, people with autism have that ability. Some of them have that ability to think differently. They ask the what if question. It's so, so important, asking the what if question. As I said earlier, I used to be a geologist in the construction industry, mostly in design. And I would be in meetings on site, dealing with something that's going on, something we're building, something that's being built. And I'd be sitting there thinking, why is no one asking this question? And eventually, curiosity and perhaps a little bit of mischievousness will take over, and I will go, excuse me, why don't we look at it this way? And I will get blank looks, or I will get people going, what? Where does that come from? Explain. And I would explain my idea, my thought, and we would talk about it. And I usually did that over a drawing. I very visual person, being someone on the spectrum, and I like to see so that I can present and discuss what's going on visually. So having a marked up drawing, and then you can mark with your pencil or a pen areas that you wanted to talk about, so you can demonstrate the point you're trying to make. And that is how I did it. And I'd ask those questions. The interesting thing is, or two things. One is, it would set the debate, the discussion on the topic, the concern that we had, and we would come up with something new. It might be what I suggested, it might be something different, but it gave the other people in the room the opportunity to think about things and discuss it, and we collectively come up with a way forward, which is exactly what you want from a meeting. The purpose of a meeting is to be further forward when you finish than you were when you started. If all you've done is produced a lot of hot air and waffle and notes about what happened last week and whose action is this week, doesn't really, you want to move things forward. That's the purpose of a meeting, is to have a meeting of minds to move the project forward. That's what you want from a meeting. The second thing that happened from those meetings is that I would get taken aside by my bosses after the meeting, having a cup of tea, or they'd organize themselves and we're going to go and have a walk around the site, be whatever it was. And they'd say, Andrew, why did you ask that question? And me being sometimes mischievous, I would say, that's not the question we should be asking. The question we should be asking is, why didn't you think of asking that question? And they would go, hey, what? What do you mean? And we'd have this discussion about why I came up with the idea for the question. What was my motivation behind it? Was I just trying to show someone up, which is definitely not the case? What I was trying to do is fix the problem that was around the table, move it forward. Contractor knows what they're doing. They can get on and build it, and we can get on with it. We can supervise it, and be going further down the line. That's the aim of what we were doing. That's why people with Asperger syndrome are so valuable for so many disciplines, because they can think of asking the what if questions. Why don't we look at this in a different way and come up with a new way of doing something? And it really is as simple as that. Just have a quick look at my notes here. Um, yeah, it's it's realizing the resource that you have. If you're a company that has 100 employees and you're an engineering discipline, the statistics, and I'm never a great one for statistic, but the numbers tell us that approximately 1 in 100 people in the UK have autism or Asperger syndrome. Okay, 1%. Might be slightly higher, might be 1.5, might be 2, because we're getting more awareness of people at a younger age, and so we're picking them up and diagnosing them earlier rather than later in life, like myself, although there are still a lot of people getting diagnosed later in life like myself. But if we can address this at school, if we can address this as early as school, so that the student, the person with Asperger's syndrome, gets the support and the understanding from school that they're not being difficult, they're not being disruptive. They are absolutely trying to fit in and comply with what's around them. But having the school and the teachers to understand that this person's a bit different, they've got Asperger's, they might act in a different way, the teaching staff can adapt to help that student learn better, find out how they learn best, and support them and give them um, some other support. And one of the things that I was speaking to a lady a little while ago. Her son had recently been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and he was having a hell of a time at school. He was about to be expelled until he got this diagnosis. And with all the things that the school set up, with the understanding from the teachers and the headmaster and all that, there was one key thing that they did, and that was they gave this child a safe space. And his safe space, it happened to be a young boy, his safe space was the library. Perfect. Because in the library, you have books, you have resources, and kids love books. People with Asperger, kids love books anyway. If they're encouraged to read books, encourage them to read books. Sit and read to your kids. I can't recommend that highly enough. And secondly, it's quiet. So the person isn't going to get overwhelmed with lots of noise and chitter chatter and all sorts of things going on around them. It's quiet. It's got books in it, which is a resource that they could call upon. And there's someone there. There's a librarian who will know that this child has got Asperger's. They've been told that this young man might be coming to take a lesson and be just sit quietly in there. They'll probably have a safe designated seat or somewhere near the librarian so that the librarian can keep an eye on them, and then that way the child can calm down from whatever angst or anxiety or issues was going on in the classroom, and they can then calm down, read, get better, and then get back to school, back into class, and be attentive to what's going on in the class. So that kind of thinking, that kind of how can we support this child, is brilliant. So if we can diagnose people more and earlier, I know I'm getting a bit off topic, but it's important to realize that there's things that we can do to support people. And if we look at this in a slightly wider context of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that is what I do when I talk and I work with employers. It's about understanding the width and the breadth of talent that is out there. And if you want to develop your business, you're going to need to expand your horizons from what we had in the 60s. In the 60s in the UK, most of the people in work were white males between the ages of 18 and 65. That is just the fact of the situation. There were a number of people who were white women who were tended to be in secretarial and typing roles, and I'm not trying to belittle anyone, in any woman that was in an engineering discipline or architecture or any other technical discipline. Absolutely well done to you. But what I'm saying is, if we looked at the demographics and the numbers, that's what the workforce was comprised of back in the 1960s. What we now have is we have a multicultural society, a multi-ethnic society, where people from all over the world, for different religions, different belief systems, different sexual orientation, sexual identity, different belief systems, different languages, different cultures. We are a melting pot of all of this uh, talent that is available to us. To be able to move your business forward, you're going to need to have people from all of those different areas in your teams, because if you're always employing white male 18 to 65, you're going to get roughly one type of opinion, because we've all been taught the same way at school, and it's a very blinkered approach. You open that up to other people who have grown up in different societies, they've grown up in different backgrounds, they are going to have different outlooks on life. It naturally follows. So a problem that you have with your business The person from Southeast Asia or South America or North America or Europe, Eastern Europe or Western Europe might be sitting there thinking, "Yeah, we had that problem 10 years ago when I was working over in Slovakia or France or wherever it was. Yeah, this is how we fixed it." There you go. You've got a solution right there because you're employing people who are more diverse than the norms, and people who come to us from other cultures and races and belief systems integrate into your business. You will get better solutions. You will get more options available to you as to things that you can do, because more people from different backgrounds is going to be a bigger gene pool. But not the right gene pool is not the right word. A bigger resource pool of people who can help you drive your business forward. And if all of those people have, as people who have Asperger's syndrome and autism as well, you're bringing in additional talent, additional resources, additional abilities to help you with your drive your business. And that's what we want, isn't it? We want everyone in our society to contribute. That's what we want. We want people to feel valued. There is nothing better as an employee to feel valued. Well, you want to get paid well. You want to get paid properly for what you do and not to be underpaid. But you want to feel valued. You want to feel as though the contribution that you've made for that month has been worthwhile, has been valued by your bosses, valued by your superiors. And it would be nice to be told that from time to time. Now, we don't always need chocolates and flowers and all of that thing going on, but it would be nice when you've completed a task and you've given it to your bosses, whenever that is, let's say 4 o'clock on a Friday, you've wrapped up and you've gone home, and then Monday or Tuesday next week, the boss comes around and says, "Really pleased with what you did last week or last month. That was a good report. That was a good outcome for what we did. I really appreciate your effort." That makes the person feel valued, makes them think that my boss understands that I worked hard and is happy with the work that I've done. That makes me want to come to work the next day and be good at what I'm doing for the next day, the next week, the next month. If you get recognition, and the recognition and the profits from the business is shared down to you, all the better. But to be appreciated for what you do is so important. And there's so many middle managers don't do that. They take their teams for granted. They just consider them a resource that they milk until they bleed. I'm mixing my metaphors, but you know what I mean. Um, and that's not going to help. That's all that's going to do, is that's going to drive people to the point where they are exhausted, they're stressed, they're anxious, and they can't do it anymore, and they have time off sick. They have extended periods away from work because they're off sick, because they can't cope. That devalues and makes a bigger strain on the resources you have left, and it puts more stress on the teams, puts more stress on the bosses and it becomes a circular downward spiral where everyone gets stressed out. So value your teams, value the people you have working for you, and listen to the things they come up with, because you're not going to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I've never had all the answers. Certainly it's not that big-headed enough to think that I have all the answers to all the problems when I was at work. Not at all. But I was happy to contribute and play my part and give my opinion and support other people who thought, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's develop that. That's what you want from your teams. You want your teams to be proactive and to contribute, and to that you have to have the bosses being supportive. Supportive of the resources you have available to you, because that's how you get the best from people. If you're just sitting there clock watching and saying, "You're a minute back from work, I'm going to write you up. A minute back from lunch, I'm going to write you up," or "You're 2 minutes late this morning, I'm going to write you up." You are not. I will guarantee you, you will not get the best from your employees. All you will have is people that will go, "Right, 5 o'clock, I'm off. I'm bye. Cheerio. I'm going home for the weekend." But we haven't finished. So what? I don't get paid to work after 5 o'clock. I'm done. Goodbye. That's what will happen. If you don't support the resource that you have, the teams that you have working for you, the people who are coming up with new ideas, and encourage those new ideas, because what happens is when you have teams that are encouraging you and supporting you and doing good work, it makes the team look good, it makes you look good. And you want people to be pushing you to be good because you want to go up the ladder to the next level of management. And there will be people in your teams who could make ideal supervisors and ideal managers who could take on your job when you move up the ladder. You want growth from within, because that way the teams will know who they are. They will understand their quirks and their strong points and their weaknesses, and they know how to support people. That's what you want in business. And that's how you get the best from people who are problem solvers, who are free thinkers, and who ask the what if and the why questions. That's how you drive your business forward. That's how you have a constructive, proactive teams helping each other, moving things forward. It's really important to understand that. And the manager is important, but can't be more important than the talent he has at his disposal or her disposal. It's really important to understand that. So coming back to the point that I was making at the start, it is about recognizing the talents that you have, and that some of those people who you have in your teams might have Asperger's syndrome, might have autism, and they could be sitting there being undervalued, being grossly undervalued, because you don't recognize the talent that they have, because you've got them doing this little thing, this little piece of work, and you're not giving them the opportunity to speak freely, to speak their mind, to challenge. Let them challenge you. It's important that you're challenged, because they might have the idea that fixes that long-standing problem that you have with product or the process or the machine that you have in the shop floor produces 7% errors over the course of a week. So if you're producing thousands and thousands of these products that you're making, or parts to products that you're making, and there's a 7% error or a quality control issue in 7% of them, for every 1,000, that's 70. So that's 70 items that are going through the system and being sold to your customers. What if that person who has Asperger's syndrome, or anyone else for that matter, thinks, how about we do it like this, and we can reduce that 70 down to 6? That increases your reputation, because your customers aren't going to keep having faults. You're not going to have 70 customers having a fault every 1,000. You'll have 6. You ideally want to get your 6 down to 0, but 6 is an awful lot better than having 70, isn't it? So the person with Asperger's syndrome might have the solution to that problem that you've got on the shop floor, day in, day out, all of the time, being produced by that machine. When I was a teenager at school, when I was doing my sixth form, I had a short, a short filling in job as a quality control inspector at a battery making plant, where my job was to collect plastic components that have been made out of a molding machine that made 40 of them at once. So it's 40 little nozzles, hot press plastics, and it would shoot them out. So you got a tray, you put it under the machine when it shot them out, and you got a sample from each run, and I would go and test them. And if I got numbers above a certain number, a certain threshold, I would tell the fitter, and the fitter would come and fix. And either he would block off the number. Say we were always having a problem with number 23, he would come and block off number 23, so we didn't produce one that was making an error, that making a faulty product. It was one way of doing it, you know. So that was my job. My job was night shift, was to test 2 different types of products to check for quality control. Simple thing like that. Checking numbers, checking productivity, checking that the goods being produced by the plant were to the right standard, and we weren't getting too many failures. Because too many failures, you would have customers complaining. They would go and buy someone else's batteries instead of the batteries from your plant, your manufacturer. So You might have the resource in your teams underutilized that would know how to fix that problem. Why don't you use it? Why don't you use the skills and the resources of the teams you have around you? So if you're a manager, allow people to challenge you, allow them to ask the questions, allow them to say, I've noticed this problem. And if we looked at it this way, maybe we've got a solution. That's what you want from your teams. You don't want them, you don't want to be a manager who's cutting them off all the time. No, I just want you to do that. Just do your job and nothing else. Because guess what you'll get? They will do that job and nothing else. From the time they have to start to the time they finish, no extra time, no staying back to fix a problem or resolve a problem. They will be time served because you are not supporting them and encouraging them to help you in your business. So the managers have to be open, open to criticism, open to suggestion, open to the what if questions, because that person who's asking those questions might have the solution to your problem. He might be someone like Steve Jobs, who saw the phones that we had back in 2007 or thereabouts. And most of the time, the phones that we had back in those days was a phone and a text machine. That's what we did. And occasionally you could send photographs to someone. By that time, the computing power was becoming so good that we could reduce the size of a computer into something that was handheld. So he went, handheld phone? Can we get a handheld computer? Why don't we put the two together? Bam. At one moment in time, in 2007, they changed the way we communicate with each other around the world because we had the access to the internet, access to and social media went through the roof after the advent of the iPhone and the Android. Because he thought of the what if question. What if I put the phone and the power of the computer into one handheld device? He changed the world. Of all the inventions that we've had over the last 30 years in the technological age, the iPhone has got to be as close to the top of technological advancement as there is. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that comes anywhere near as being as good as the handheld computer phone, which is what you have. You can browse the internet. You can post on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on your LinkedIn. You've got the access because someone thought, we've got phones. Can we get the power of a computer into that device? Might need to be a little bit bigger, get a big, decent sized screen. Bingo. Because he thought out of the box. He asked the what if question. He thought, what can we do that is different from what is currently available? That's what you can do. That's what someone with Asperger syndrome can do to your business. They can get you new products, update your processes, and help you move forward. As I said right at the beginning, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Do you know where your business is going to be in 10 years' time? Have you got a plan? Or are you hoping that somewhere down the line, you might improve what you've got and be able to rebrand it and resell it, and it might take you forward 3, 4 years? Do you know where you're going in 10 years' time? Have you got a plan for that? I don't know the answer to that for your business. But if you employ people with Asperger's syndrome and you give them the opportunity to free think, ask the what if questions, you just might have the resource that can help you move your business forward, leaps and bounds into something new and something brilliant, and something fantastic. Become a market leader rather than a market follower. Which would you prefer to be? So that's really all I wanted to talk about today on unique problem solving skills for people who have Asperger's syndrome and autism. And if you're an employer or a business and you're thinking, don't know about this diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I haven't really heard much about Asperger's syndrome, but I'm interested from what Andrew's just been saying, and you want to know what you need to do, or you want to know how you can help, or you want to know a little bit more about it, then please feel free to get in touch. You can get in touch with me on my website, which is aspergersmatters.com, or you can email me at andrew@aspergersmatters.com. And I welcome the opportunity to have a 30-minute free consultation with you to see how I can help you and your business be more inclusive, be more diverse, be more equitable, and how you can help integrate, support, and manage people with Asperger's syndrome in your workplace. I have a 7 steps program. Quite happily discuss that with you on how to do that. But to take cheap and easy to implement techniques, skills, and strategies to help you manage people with Asperger's syndrome and do that better in the workplace. So if you want to have a chat, be delighted to do so. You know how to get hold of me. So that's all we got time for today. And next week's session, I will be posting on Friday on LinkedIn what the session will be. But until then, thank you very much for your time. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, then and you like what you've got, there are all the other videos to the previous 47 sessions on there. Please like and subscribe, and make any comments that you might have, and I'll try and help and answer it in any way that I can. But until next week, take care, thank you, and goodbye.